everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I want to clear out some of these quotes that I've found that have built up and they're still highlighted. I take the highlight off once I share them on a video like this. So I want to go over what I found for following church authorities, following local leaders, and then probably a few other topics. It just depends on how long the video goes. But, as I do my research, I just want to keep adding quotes and stuff and just build up my knowledge base and be able to find things easily. So this is for my benefit, for yours. You can access these spreadsheets anytime. Go to any video, and the link for the spreadsheet is in the description box. Just click on that, and then you can copy whatever you want to from this. So we'll just start with this: following church authorities, following local church leaders, and then maybe do a few more. Okay, so this first one. Okay, this is from History of the Church, Volume 1, page 338, from a letter from Joseph Smith and Frederick G. Williams to John S. Carter, the 13th of April, 1833, Kirtland, Ohio. Okay, quote, "It is contrary to the economy of God for any member of the church or anyone to receive instructions for those in authority higher than themselves." It's kind of just common sense, isn't it? Therefore, you will see the impropriety of giving heed to them. But if any person have a vision or a visitation from a heavenly messenger, it must be for his own benefit and instruction. For the fundamental principles, government, and doctrine of the church are vested in the keys of the kingdom. So, there you go. You have Joseph Smith talking about how you don't receive information for the rest of the church. Revelation, you receive it for yourself, for your own benefit. And it's just, there's not very many organizations out there that I'm aware of where you have subordinates telling those above them what to do. It certainly isn't that way in the Army. Well, maybe with a few exceptions, like when it's time for doing the PT test and height and weight. No one is exempt from that, but it's not really subordinates telling officers what to do, but the officers have to comply with those already established standards. Okay, so that doesn't really count. You can't tell people above you what to do or receive revelation for them. It makes sense. It's obvious. Okay, this is also from History of the Church, Volume 3, page 385, Discourse by Joseph Smith. Okay, he says, "I will give you one of the keys of the mysteries of the kingdom. It is an eternal principle that has existed from God or with God for all eternity. That man who rises up to condemn others, finding fault with the church, saying that they are out of the way while he himself is righteous, then know assuredly that that man is in the high road to apostasy, and if he does not repent, will apostatize, as God lives." So I think that we ourselves need to be really careful, when we criticize the church programs, which ultimately are the result of inspiration that's received by our church leaders, the prophet, the apostles, right? It's their charge to look over the church, and they have special communication for that very purpose. They've been put in a position of authority, and so the Lord is going to talk to them because they affect a very large number of people, right? And there's going to be things that kind of rub us the wrong way, and that's fine, right? But we got to be careful that we're not like living our own personal religion based on us and our beliefs. We are part of a union. We are part of a hive, a beehive. We're part of a collective. We're part of it's Zion, one of heart, one of mind. So finding fault with the church, I would say, like, whenever I see that kind of thing happening, there's usually some underlying issue with that person. And, sometimes you have genuine people that are just genuinely confused about something that happened that seemed wrong. Other times you just have people that are narcissists or toxic people that they want to find fault with everything, complain about everything. They want to lift themselves up, and show like, look, this is how things should go in the church. Look to me. And they get attention and stuff like that. And that's their reward, You know, um, it's really not good. This is coming from Joseph Smith himself. If you're struggling with some kind of issue, pray about it. And don't repeat your doubts and stuff like that with the other doubters. That's something that was recently told to us by, wasn't it President Nelson that said that? I'm going to see if I can find it really quick. Russell M. Nelson, don't rehearse doubts with doubters, or something like that. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. Stop increasing your doubts by rehearsing them with others. Stop increasing your doubts by, yeah, here it is. Christ is risen, April 6th, 2021. So I guess this would have been during General Conference. Rehearse. I'm gonna have to put this on my spreadsheet somewhere. Okay, second, this is President Nelson, April 2021 General Conference. Second, choose to believe in Jesus Christ. If you have doubts about God the Father and his beloved Son, or the validity of the restoration, or the veracity of Joseph Smith's divine calling as a prophet, choose to believe and stay faithful. Take your questions to the Lord and to other faithful sources. Not just to some Joe Schmo, that's complaining about things, right? Study with the desire to believe rather than with the hope that you can find a flaw in the fabric of a prophet's life or a discrepancy in the scriptures. And you could make that list go on and on. Discrepancies in the church, or, the imperfections of whatever, the way that the church operates. Stop increasing your doubts by rehearsing them with other doubters. Allow the Lord to lead you on your journey of spiritual discovery. This is a really good one. Avoid people that are doubters, that are murmurers, complainers, that just nothing is ever right with the church. There's always something. Okay, let's go on to the next one. History of the church, letter from the first presidency and high council to the saints living living west of Kirtland, Ohio. Okay. Now, for persons to do things merely because they are advised to do them, and yet murmur all the time they are doing them, is of no use at all. They might as well not do them. There are those who profess to be saints, who are too apt to murmur and find fault when any advice is given which comes in opposition to their feelings, even when they themselves ask for counsel, much more so when counsel is given unasked for, which does not agree with their notion of things. But brethren, we hope for better things from the most of you. We trust that you desire counsel from time to time, and that you will cheerfully conform to it whenever you receive it from a proper source. And this is something people struggle with. Something comes down, there's some kind of change in the church, some new thing revealed. We get used to things, or we get comfortable with the way that things are. We find for toxic people, you have religious narcissists that essentially they instead of choosing some other thing in life, they choose religion and find that as a way to gain attention, validity from people, power, influence, whatever. And so that takes a lot of work, because that when you're striving for that kind of thing, you want attention on you, you want notoriety, or whatever it is. It takes work. And so when things change, you've put in all this work to kind of get in a groove, and you have a well-oiled machine getting attention, but then something changes. It frustrates what you're trying to do. But the thing is, it's not about you. It's not about you. And who knows what the church is going to end up looking like, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10, during the millennium. We may not even recognize the church in the millennium. And when I say it, no, don't take that out of context. I'm talking about just the way that things operate. The principles, the covenants, they would all remain the same. But you go to the church at any given period of time. Back in the days of Adam, Enoch, Melchizedek, Abraham, united Israel, divided Israel, the time of Christ, the Nephites, it's going to look different the way that it operates, because the Lord is practical. He does things usually through practical means, um, to conform to whatever the needs are of his children, right? So it's not just like this big monolithic thing where you have the exact same way of doing things. The principles and the covenants, yes. Okay, yes. But the other things, no. It can change according to the needs of the moment. So, but look at this. And this is something that makes some people recoil. To conform. To conform. It's scary because, you know, you may have that thought instantly like, oh, what, I have to lose my individuality? No. No. You don't lose your individuality. But you conform to how you're going to live. You're going to live righteously. You're going to treat other people with love and kindness and care. The Lord gives us the word of wisdom. It's expected of us to conform to it. Why? Because these different things in the world, alcohol, tobacco, they're not good for you. And they're not good for other people either. You know, people that smoke and then everyone else around you breathes in secondhand smoke. It's gross. All the people that die from driving under the influence of alcohol. So, it might be hard. It may go against you in the way that you feel about things, but you're not losing your identity. You're becoming of one heart, one mind, but you still have your identity, your talents, the things that you like, the unique things that you bring to the table. You don't lose those things. So don't get it confused. All right, so there's that. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, who is this? History of the Church, Volume 4, page 603 and 604, from a discourse given by Joseph Smith in Nauvoo, reported by Eliza R. Snow. Joseph Smith said, if God has appointed him and chosen him as an instrument to lead the church, why not let him lead it through? Why stand in the way when he is appointed to do a thing? Who knows the mind of God? Does he not reveal things differently from what we expect? Yeah. Because you know what? We are not God. You and me, we are not God. We have the potential to become such because we are the same species as God. But as of right now, we're not even close. The prophet remarked that he was continually rising, although he had everything bearing him down, standing in his way and opposing. Notwithstanding all this opposition, he always comes out right in the end. He reproved those who had disposed to find fault with the management of the concerns of the church, saying God had called him to lead the church and he would lead it right. Those that undertake to interfere will be ashamed when their own folly is made manifest. Can you imagine how frustrating it must be to be the prophet, to be the apostles, when you have all these complainers, or you have all these people that try and splinter off and like do their own thing? They try and get people to go another way than what has been revealed to you as the prophet. We've had a lot of changes lately in the church, a lot. Ever since 2018, when President Nelson became president of the church. Let me just give you like one example. We're no longer doing Boy Scouts. Okay. I don't think it was really done outside of the United States. I'm not sure if Canada did it or I don't know. But at the very least, in the United States, the Boy Scout program was a big part of the church, like specifically for the young men. That's how I was raised. I got my Weeblos and whatever. I never became an Eagle Scout. I didn't go all the way because I lived in a place where the type of area where it's the newlywed and nearly dead kind of thing, where you have like a bunch of apartments, but you also have a bunch of retired people, and so it's like, so there wasn't very much youth. So I didn't get my Eagle Scout, but I did go to another ward, did Boy Scouts, and we had one leader where, man, Boy Scouts to him was so important. Like he was big into it. He did it like he was involved with it. He was a leader. Um, he had all of his kids, all of his boys became scouts and stuff. And you could tell that it just like it was really near and dear to his heart. And so when the church, finally gets to the point where it's like, okay, we're actually going to start going a different direction, that might rub someone like that the wrong way. I don't know how he dealt with it. I'm sure he probably wasn't happy, but the Lord is the one that's in charge. Okay, there's a reason why he wanted that to happen. Yes, the prophet, the apostles, they counsel together. They don't make a decision unless it's unanimous. Just see the video. I've brought this up time and time again on YouTube. There's, let's see, LDS Power of Councils. This video right here, inside church headquarters, the power of councils, this shows you how decisions are made. And it's done unanimous. And it's not just off of people's reasoning. We are expected to think, but ultimately we're supposed to plan with our Heavenly Father, plan with the Spirit. So you do the thinking, you come up with an idea, you present it before the Lord, and then you get a confirmation. Or you may get a preemptive prompting about something. Like, hey, think about this. And then you kind of like follow the Spirit's lead, so there's like different ways it can happen. But anything that comes down, it's with the approval or specifically revealed flat out from God to happen in his church. So could you imagine how frustrating it must be for President Nelson or anybody else when it's like, okay, we're not doing Boy Scouts anymore. Okay, now we're going to 2-hour church. Now we're doing this. Now we're doing that. And then you have all these people complaining. For all you know, what if he had like an angelic visit one night about one particular topic? And then you have to bear the brunt of the complainers and the murmurs and the detractors. It's really disturbing and really sad. Okay, the next one, History of the Church, Volume 5, page 423 to 425. Discourse by Joseph Smith in Nauvoo, reported by Wilford Woodruff and Willard Richards. There are a great many wise men and women, too, in our midst who are too wise to be taught. Therefore, they must die in their ignorance, and in the resurrection they will find their mistake. Many seal up the door of heaven by saying, so far God may reveal, and I will believe. So, of course, that's sarcasm. People that are too wise, they know what's best. They know what's best. And the prophet and apostles, they're just men. They don't have the gift of wisdom and everything that some people in the church believe themselves to have. Okay, History of the Church, Volume 6, page 364, Discourse by Joseph Smith in Nauvoo, reported by Thomas Bullock. When a man goes about prophesying and commands men to obey his teachings, he must either be a true or false prophet. False prophets always arise to oppose the true prophets, and they will prophesy so very near the truth that they will deceive almost the very chosen ones. Got to be careful with that. It's no secret that, I have disagreements with certain others about interpretations of things like the 10 lost tribes, for example, the 144,000, the Antichrist, da-da-da-da-da. Having different opinions about that kind of stuff is not going to lead anybody astray, obviously. It's more about you following the teachings that were taught to us on the Sermon on the Mount, entering into covenants, going to the temple, treating others well, and stuff like that. But sometimes you have people that are politically motivated that will try and mesh, moral lessons with the philosophies of the world, you know. And usually it comes in the form of like, well, God is love and he loves all people and you're perfect just the way you are. And it gets confusing if you don't study the scriptures, if you're not doing the work to study and live the gospel, you can get confused by those things because it sounds good. It sounds flowery. You know what I mean? And you do have those people that, they have some other agenda going on, usually political in nature, but it could be other things too. It could be other things, but the warning sign, according to this, is opposing the true prophets. You just think about what happened, for example, before the angel Moroni dropped his trumpet. Let's see, BYU protest church headquarters. Okay, March 6th, 2020. Hundreds participate in honor code protest at church office building. So, do you think that these people are opposing the prophet? Let's read this. False prophets always arise to oppose the true prophets. It looks to me like they're opposing. To me, it looks like they're opposing the standards, the principles, the morals of the church, as though this is how revelation is received. What is it? God would not renounce what? Oh, me. Okay. You ran out of space there on your little sign. Rise and shout, the Cougars are out. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Of course, most of these people, I don't know, there could be some of these that are like genuinely they genuinely think that this is right. In other words, many others, I'm guessing, they know exactly what they're doing. They know. They're not caring about truth as far as like what the church teaches. They're already opposed in their hearts against the church. Anyway, I'm not going to go on and on about that, but there's just like an example. Opposition to the prophet. And in this case, literally standing outside church headquarters and shouting and bringing signs and picket signs and flags and protesting. It's a protest. Look, honor code protest. All right, next one. Okay, this is Brigham Young, Deseret News, 1857. Many years ago, the prophet Joseph Smith observed that if the people would have received the revelations he had in his possession and wisely acted upon them, as the Lord would dictate, they might in their power to do and understand have been many years ahead of what they then were. Okay, that was kind of hard to read, but basically, we could be so much more advanced as a church. I don't know in what way, if like there'd be new revelation or whatever. Again, we know that this wouldn't affect the timing of the second coming. The second coming has an appointed time, and it's not based on righteousness or wickedness. But who knows in what other ways we could be years ahead than what we currently are. So that's an interesting thing. And this has to do with following the prophet and following the leaders of the church authorities, instead of complaining. Okay, this is Mark E. Peterson, General Conference, October 1949. At this point, he was in the Quorum of the 12, or the way that it showed on the original source of the Council of the 12 Apostles. I'm not sure like when that changed, calling it the council opposed to the quorum, but there was a change at some point. Okay, he says, instead of going on a tangent this way or a tangent some other way, let us be willing to follow the prophets of God, who stand here at the head of the church and who receive the divine guidance of the Almighty. Let us have enough faith and enough courage to be real Latter-day Saints. And I like that he says that. In fact, I'm going to highlight it because there are fake Latter-day Saints. They're part of the church for some other reason. Usually cultural. They're just trying to fit into the prevailing culture in which they live or their family. Or they could be an active predator. They found a group of people that are nice that they can take advantage of. There's different reasons why you would do that and then be a fake Latter-day Saint. A tare, right? Not the real wheat, but a tare, a look-alike. Let us have enough courage and enough faith to believe in the articles of faith. I challenge every Latter-day Saint everywhere to believe and accept and sustain the sixth article of faith, which I read again. We believe in the same organization that existed in the primitive church, namely apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, evangelists, etc. I pray that we may have the courage, that we may have the unity and the harmony as a people to support and sustain the prophet of God by sustaining the program in all its projects and enterprises as he gives it to us. And people struggle with that. I'm going to highlight that too, as he gives it to us. All right. Next, we've already read that one. Well, let's just, what the heck, let's just read it again. Okay. Joseph Fielding Smith in Doctrines of Salvation, Volume 1, page 150. Saints safe in following church authorities. No man ever went astray by following the counsel of the authorities of the church. No man who ever followed the teachings or took advice or counsel from one who stands as the representative of the Lord ever went astray. But men who refused to accept counsel have gone astray into forbidden paths, and in some instances have even denied the faith. Others who went astray because they failed to understand and to heed the counsels that were given unto them for their eternal good have humbled themselves and come back to the church acknowledging their error. We must put our faith in those whom the Lord hath called. And why is that? Why? It's because the Lord chose them. You trace it back to its source, God, the one who created everything through his son, Jesus Christ, and the Father of our spirits, the one who is exalted, a perfect man that has an intelligence infinitely far beyond what we currently possess. He chose individuals to be leaders in the church. So you're not just investing your faith in just a man. You're investing your faith in the decision by an incredibly superior source, an incredibly superior being that made that decision. If we want to have a standing before the Lord, and none of us desire, if we have the proper spirit to be cut off from among the people. Okay, I got to read that again. We must put our faith in those whom the Lord hath called, if we want to have a standing before the Lord, and none of us desire, if we have the proper spirit to be cut off from among the people. Okay, so there's that danger of being cut off from among the people. And that's happened. Again, I point you to this list of LDS denominations. You have all these little groups that did exactly that. They stopped following the prophet, and they splintered off because they had the true wisdom. They had the true understanding of the scriptures or a certain doctrine or whatever. Each one of these has their own little story. And then after that, they splinter off from each other. Look at this one right here, this blue one. Who is this? I can't really read. Oh, it's the RLDS, the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay, Community of Christ. They divided into first Church of the Christian Brotherhood, and then Church of Jesus Christ Restored, and then Church of Jesus Christ Tonyite, Church of Christ Clark, Church of Jesus Christ Zion's Branch. Just all sorts of just nonsense. Gosh, because people think that they know. And of course, again, I think probably the majority of them that splinter off like that, it's just simply a narcissist. It's a narcissist, they gain a following, and then it gets to a point where it's like, you know what, I could just I'll do this myself. Okay, I'm the prophet now. And then they splinter off. Okay, so, but this punishment will befall those who do not prove faithful and will not pay that heed or give that attention to the counsel of those who are called and appointed and inspired of the Lord to teach and direct us in all things. All things. And, if you were to sum all this up, one thing that you would come to, one of like the root causes of this issue, this problem, is pride. It's pride. You don't want somebody, some man, some person just like you, telling you what to do. Because that's the way that prideful people look at it. They don't look at it as God communicating to us through a person. Okay? Because the thought goes, well, I have a direct connection to God. I don't need some person to tell me what to do. And that's wrong. Yes, you do. Because God speaks through a prophet. He speaks to you directly on your own personal issues, your life, your learning, your progress in this life. But when we're talking about the direction of the church, direction of the world, he does speak through the prophet. That's how prophecies come. That's how doctrine comes. You're not going to receive a doctrine like some special doctrine that doesn't come through the prophet. It's not going to happen. Okay, and then we got this. I shared this on the community tab, but in case you guys didn't see this, now we're talking about following local church leaders. This is David O. McKay, General Conference, October 1967. At this point, he's president of the church. He says, here's a lesson for all of us in the church. Let us, too, recognize the local authority. The bishop may be a humble man. Some of you may think you are superior to him, and you may be, but he is given authority, direct from our Father in heaven. Recognize it. Seek his advice and the advice of your stake president. If they cannot answer your difficulties or your problems, they will write to the general authorities and get the advice needed. Recognition of authority is an important principle. Yeah, it's a huge principle because someone who's prideful really, really struggles with this concept of authority. You going to a humble man, say you have a bishop that never graduated from college, maybe he's been a janitor or something like that for his career. And then you going to him, yeah, you go to him, because it doesn't have to do with who he is in this life, like his worldly accomplishments. The Lord speaks through him to his ward. He's the one that's over the ward. He's a common judge in Israel, right? And then the stake president for his stake. This is how things work, and there's not a problem with it whatsoever. There was one commenter that was talking about, I don't understand why God would call imperfect people, though, because, you have some church leaders that end up becoming, predators themselves, abusers. Okay. I don't want to sound bad. Read the scriptures. Read the scriptures, and you will receive the answer to that question. But let me just go ahead and give it to you. We all have agency. Every single person that has come to earth has agency. They can choose for themselves. God does not compel anybody. So, for example, he chose Saul to be the first king of Israel. And Saul started out righteous, but then he became a raging, narcissistic, psychopathic lunatic who tried to murder David, and he did all sorts of bad things. He tried to what was he trying to do? Like at the end of his life, he was trying to perform a sacrifice, but he didn't have that authority. He wasn't a Levite, even though he was king. He didn't have the authority to do a sacrifice, and he did all sorts of just bad things. God called him, but you know what? He also has his agency. God called David. David is a big symbol for Jesus Christ himself. And that's why we always call Christ the Son of David. When he comes, he's going to restore essentially, he's the heir to the Davidic throne, right? Jesus Christ himself. And David messed up. And he lost his exaltation because of killing Uriah indirectly. Um, you have all throughout the scriptures examples of people that were called of God that messed up. None of us are perfect. And you have to remember one thing. You remember when, I think it was Alma and Amulek, they were watching um, the wickedness of the people. They were throwing throwing women and children into the fire. And I think it was Amulek that said, why don't we just put forth our hands and stop this? Why don't we just stop it? We have the power to do that. We could just stop this right here and now. And the answer is because they have their agency, and God's judgment is perfect. And if they don't have the ability to exercise their agency and do what's wrong, then they can't receive a perfect judgment, and they need that judgment. It's like this life is kind of like a receipt. We come here, we charge up our card, our spiritual credit card, with all these sins, and either you repent and you accept Christ, and that bill is taken care of for you, or you end up having a really large bill at the end that you are going to have to pay for. So it's almost as though like they had that in their hearts to do that horrible thing, and God knew it, but because of justice, they have to do that in order for them to receive that punishment. And and for everybody to learn a lesson from it into the eternities. God, if God wanted to, he could have a perfect church. You know, he could either compel everybody, which was Satan's plan, which he wouldn't, or I'm sure that he probably could. He probably could pick people that would do no wrong, and not take away their agency. He just knows, this person, he will do no wrong. I want him to be the bishop. But he wants to give people the chance to mess up, because that's the point of this life. That's the point of this life. So if you come across a church authority that is abusive or something like that, then you report it. You step out of that situation. And things have changed from what they were before. Like now, youth, when they go to talk to the bishop, they I don't know if they have to, but they have the option to have like a parent there or another adult with them, for example. So that was a positive development. It's really sad that we have to do that, but you know. Um, so anyway, we do the best we can, but the Lord does not take away their agency, and He gives them that opportunity to either rise above themselves, rise above their natural man, or fall, and then it's to their own condemnation. But as far as for practical purposes and for um, taking care of our spiritual needs, He appoints people for whatever reason, and those people are capable of getting the job done. It's not for us to judge them. other than, okay, this is not a good situation. I don't feel comfortable here. That's like the extent of it. Other than that, you know, you have a bishop called or whoever, and the Lord can work through them, even if they're imperfect. Okay, so anyway, hopefully that answers that. If anybody else has anything to add to that, just put it in the comments below. And we're at 40 minutes, so yeah, that actually went longer than I thought it would. So I guess we'll just end it right there. I guess we'll just end it right there. So hopefully none of us fall into these, what's being described here, these patterns, these attitudes. Hopefully none of us are murmurers. That's like one of the first things that you learn as you read the Book of Mormon, is that Laman and Lemuel, they're murmurers. That means they're complainers. Instead of humbling themselves and following the prophet, which in that case was their own father, they just complained. They complained. Complainers. Life's not easy. The gospel is not easy. It takes sacrifice. It takes faith. But complaining, it doesn't get you anywhere. It just makes the situation worse. And then by you complaining, it gets other people to join in, other people that are also weak or are going through a weak moment, maybe. And then you get into potentially this issue right here. Rehearsing your doubts with doubters. Rehearsing your complaints with complainers. It doesn't do anybody any good. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also, make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.